Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how top experts sell their ideas, their value, and their services. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees. There's a lot of hot air in marketing, and there's marketing fads, marketing trends, they come and go. But I got a guy whose ideas stand the test of time, keep changing, keep improving, keep innovating. This is a guy who has reinvented category design. In fact, category design, he sort of invented it. And so what the heck is it? We're going to find out. Christopher Lochhead, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dave. It's an honor to be here. I really appreciate it.
So you have a wide and varied and deep background. Could you please start us off? Give us just a quick sketch of your professional journey that brought you to the great work that you're doing today, and what were some interesting pit stops along the way?
Well, I think I became an entrepreneur at 18. I got thrown out of school for being stupid. I found out later that I have 4 or 5 learning differences: dyscalculia, dyslexia, ADHD, and the like. I call it dysfucklia, and it turns out it's a superpower. But the education system at the time didn't agree with me. And so at 18, I faced a choice that a lot of young people face, which is a life of struggle, a life of manual labor, or start a company. And that's what I did. It was the beginning of the personal computer, just starting to take off at the time. I didn't know anything about tech, but I had a dear friend who did. And so at 18, with no money, no education, no experience, no relationships, I started a company. And I'll tell you, Dave, I think, a lot of the entrepreneurs that get celebrated are entrepreneurs who go to Stanford or some other wonderful place, and they go and they raise $20 zillion from big-time VCs on Sand Hill Road. And I've lived that whole world my professional life. And yet for me, like many, entrepreneurship was not a way up in the world. It was a way out. I'm the product of a single mother, tremendous amount of struggle, delivered newspapers from the time I was 10 or 12 years old. And my story is a lot like a lot of entrepreneur stories. We live in a part of the world where you can come from nothing and create your own life and create your own business and create value for others and ultimately materially improve your station in life and your ability to make a difference for others. So I started my first business at 18. At 28 years old, I sold what was my second business to a startup in Silicon Valley and moved from Toronto, Canada to Silicon Valley, and became the head of marketing for a publicly traded software company and a millionaire. And then I did that 2 more times, essentially, and retired as an operating executive, 3-time public company chief marketing officer at 38. And then I began advising and investing in startups, and that's what I do today. But most of my time today, Dave, is spent teaching, writing, and podcasting, because I'm a very lucky person. And I got a lot of help along the way, Dave. A lot. And I still get a tremendous amount of help. And one of my favorite expressions is, if you're lucky enough to make it to the top of a mountain, throw down a fucking rope.
Amen, brother.
I've dedicated the back half of my life to throwing down that rope.
Well, let's talk about, I want to talk about all of those things. I want to talk about the teaching and the podcasting and the book writing. But for folks that say, wait a second, Christopher Lochhead, this kind of has a familiar ring to it. So you may know Christopher and his team from fantastic, amazing books like Play Bigger and Niche Down and the Category Design Toolkit, and A Marketer's Guide to Category Design, and the 22 Laws of Category Design, and Snow Leopard. And so this whole category design thing, it's big, it's important. You may not have heard of it. Christopher, tell us how you got into this mode of basically creating a new category of marketing called category design.
Which is sort of the great if you will, performance art of category design, because in order to teach category design to entrepreneurs and marketers, we have to do category design.
That's right.
And we're always doing it. We open sourced the foundational elements of category design in our first book that you mentioned, Play Bigger, a little over 8 years ago. And we've continued to just publish everything we know, everything that smart people teach us along the lines of how does one create a radically different business that makes a giant difference, that is that produces outsized returns and results. So category design sort of owns my ass. I don't own it in any way, shape, or form. And it's also something that has been co-created with many others. The legendary Al Ramadan, Kevin Maney, Eddie Yoon, Katrina Hirsch, and many others, Mike Damphouse, and many others. And so category design is an ongoing collaboration like any new disciplines. So here's the fundamental insight. And this is going to sound crazy to most. And roughly 90%, 85% of people dismiss what I'm about to say out of hand. And so we explained to people, Dave, that category design is the greatest underground superpower in business. It challenges so much of what we've been taught that the unlearning is more than most people can take. So here are the first foundations. In the startup world, the entrepreneur world, and the marketing world, when we say we're going to launch a new product, a new company, we're going to build a brand, we're going to enter a market, etc. When we go to do marketing, the unspoken is much more loud than the spoken. And what marketing means, what doing a startup means, what launching any kind of new initiative often means, the unspoken piece is the following. We are going to launch this new thing, and we are going to compete in a market for existing demand, in a market that was designed by somebody else. And we're going to compete harder and better. We're going to build a better product. We're going to build a better brand. We're going to build a better company, a better culture. And you see, Dave, when we show the world our better, we're going to win. Now, there's over 100,000 books on marketing on Amazon. There's over 30,000 on business strategy. And while, of course, me and my co-pirates and collaborators and partners have not read all of them, like you, we've read many of the great ones. And the vast majority of them, if you take a step back and think, they're about exactly what I described. They're about competing better. Michael Porter, it's all about competition. Innovator's Dilemma, Clay Christensen. Oh, a disruptive product enters the market and takes the market away from somebody because it was such a disruptive innovation. All of these things. Now, when you study these things, here's what you realize. Nobody legendary ever did that. What the legends do is they do not compete in a market designed by somebody else. They create their own. And the interesting thing about that, we do ongoing, what we call category data science to study how markets behave. What we originally discovered knocked us over, and we ultimately have printed it, and we've done updates to it, and we've looked at it every which way from Sunday. But here's the discovery. In market category after market category, Dave, in the tech world, one company earns 76% of the total value created in that market category. And while not all markets are tech markets, we do know that all markets are becoming tech markets. If you don't think you're in the AI business today, you need to give your head a shake. And so even non-tech markets are behaving the way information technology markets have. And so the big aha here is if you're in any kind of endeavor of any scale, one company is going to win and everyone else is going to fight for the table scraps. Now, most people refuse to believe the data because, as you know, facts are very unfortunate for people with feelings.
There's a pull quote among many.
Well, and facts don't change most people's feelings.
Yeah.
And so we've been taught The education system teaches us with grades. Sports and business, it's all about beating the competition by being better. Well, Pablo Picasso spent the early part of his career chasing Van Gogh, and nobody paid any attention to him. Why? When you have Van Gogh, you don't need a better Van Gogh, and nobody's going to believe you that you're a better Van Gogh. Pepsi has spent north of $50 billion over 5 decades saying in blind taste tests, in the Pepsi challenge, 8 out of 10 people pick Pepsi. Coke's number 1. ChatGPT, created by a company called OpenAI here in Silicon Valley, where I've spent the vast majority of the last 30 years, launched, if I'm not mistaken, in the fall of 2022. They're the fastest growing startup in the history of the world. This year, that's when their revenue started. This year, they will do in excess of $3.5 billion in revenue. And the category, the market category they're in, that they designed, is called Gen AI, generative AI. The sum total market demand for Gen AI in the fall of 2022 was 0. Now, what most companies would have done if they were OpenAI is they would have thought about the world through the lens of the way it is now. And in their world, that would be, if you will, a search lens, which of course is a Google lens, because Google is the category king of search and has more than 76% of the value ever created. They didn't do that. They didn't call it Search 2.0. They didn't call it Google, but better. They didn't call it Google, but in a blind taste test, 8 out of 10 people said it was yummier. They didn't do any of that dumb shit. Real leaders do not want to be compared to others. When Pablo Picasso realized this, he stopped chasing Van Gogh and anyone else. And he made a fundamental decision. And it's the same decision that every legendary creator, marketer, and entrepreneur has made. And almost nobody talks about it. To create something not better, something different. And something different that makes a difference for others in a new way. And so if you Google Pablo Picasso right now, what you'll see is in the first or second line of his Wikipedia entry, it says something like he's the creator, he's the godfather, something along those lines of Cubism. A whole new category. And if you look at a Van Gogh and you look at a Picasso, no one compares them. They're not comparable. And so this is what the legends do. OpenAI, they did not want to be compared to Google. They were, like all legendary entrepreneurs and creators, category designing a different future, introducing us to a new way of thinking about a problem or an opportunity. And as a result, a whole new way of solving that problem or accessing that opportunity. And it turns out you can do that if you're Sam Altman at OpenAI and raising billions and billions of dollars and doing massive deals with Microsoft and Apple. Or, and I'm happy to share stories if you like, because I have a big place in my heart for small entrepreneurs. I can tell you about one of my favorite pizza joints here in Santa Cruz, California, who uses the exact same strategy. The point being this: the legends in the world, the most successful business people, the people who earn 76% of the economics in the market categories they play in, do different, not better. They create new things. They do not compete with old things.
Hang on. Let's back up the truck. Beep, 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 beep. Listen, I have a brand new sales book out there. You got to get your hands on it. It is awesome. It is amazing. It is fantastic. It is useful, practical, actionable, and a ton of bonuses are waiting for you over at doitselling.com. Grab your copy right now and grab all the bonuses, goodies, companion tools, and downloads that go with the book. You'll love it.
I guarantee it.
Well, it's funny. So many quotes pop into my head, and some of them, I'm sure, are from one or more of your books. Going back to Picasso, I think one of the quotes is, I first had to learn to be a painter. Then I had to learn to be Picasso, he says, referring to himself, meaning that completely original, I'm not competing with the other painters. Then there was a study when the iPads were maybe 3 or 4 years out, right? And everyone's heralding it's the age of the tablet. And one of the tech journalists said, it's not the age of the tablet. So Apple has proven that there is a market for iPads. They have not proven that there is a market for tablets. Because you look at all the other also ran tablets left completely in the dust, right? The iPad's on a whole different planet. And then the final quote that comes to my mind, Christopher, is of course Jerry Garcia, one of the earliest category designers. He says, you don't want to be known as the people who are the best at doing what you do. You want to be known as the only ones who are doing what you do, referring to the Grateful Dead and that whole legacy. So this is hard for people to get their arms around, because I think the head in the sand mindset is, man, marketing is hard enough when I know what I'm talking about and the prospects and the market knows what I'm talking about. Now you want to put me on a whole desert island, start using words and phrases that no one has ever used. And even though I'm solving a valuable problem with high relevance, high outcome, all of those things, people are not conversant with this new language. Because, of course, one of the category pirates, I think, please correct me if I'm wrong here, it's frame it, name it, and claim it, right? But it's all new, Christopher. How can I possibly frame it, name it, and claim it when most of the market doesn't know what I'm talking about? Most of the market in November of 2022, generative AI? What the hell is that? They didn't know they wanted it. They didn't know they needed it. How do we get people over that conceptual mountain that is a much stronger position to start from than competing with the 70,000 other marketing books, for example?
So let me answer your question a couple ways. Let's play a fun little silly exercise. You ready?
I'm ready.
You can think about anything you want, Dave. Do not think about pink elephants. No pink elephants, no pink elephants. Whatever you want, anything you want, no pink elephants. Whatever you do, no pink elephants. Never think about pink elephants. Think about anything about pink elephants. Think about any other color of elephants. Think about any other animal, any other people, any other ideas. Think about the election. Think about the war. Think about nothing but pink elephants. What's in your mind?
Pink elephants.
Right. And so the interesting question for all businesses, for all marketers, is, what are you in reference to? See, most people accept the premise of the way that it is. Law number 1 in the 22 laws of category design: thinking about thinking is the most important kind of thinking. Thinking about thinking is the most important kind of thinking. Most people don't think. What gets confused for thinking today is the replaying or the retweeting in one's head of an idea from someone else that we like, that makes us feel good and we agree with. That's not thinking. Thinking is abortion. Now, most people have a position. Here's my position on abortion. It with people's head, but I've thought about it. A, I'm 1,000% pro-life. Of course. Does anybody want one woman and one child to suffer? No. Does anybody want one life that could have flourished to be taken? No. Nobody with an IQ, as far as I can tell. Point A. Point B, I also think it's batshit insane that we think that we can tell women what to do with their bodies, and one of, and maybe the biggest decision in one's life. And so two things can be true at the same time. We can want no abortions. We can think that educating people and empowering people and showing people different approaches and sex educate, all those things. And in the horrible event that it happens, be in a position to help people make the best decisions in their life and to show them whatever options they could look at as broadly as possible without having some moronic ideology-based discussion. Now, most people aren't going to think that way. We've been presented with a false narrative. You're either pro-choice or you're pro-life. Well, you, I'm both. Okay. Now, you may or may not agree with me, but what I can do, if you were to ask, is to walk you through the logic tree, the approach in my thinking and my education, and those that I've spoken to who have all sorts of points of view and all the research on this one topic, which I'm not an expert, but I'm a person who cares about the world and others. And I think it's very possible to say you're pro-life 100%. And you support people making the best choice for their life. Now, you may agree or disagree with me. My point is, there was thinking in getting there as opposed to retweeting. Well, of course I'm pro-choice, blah, 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 or of course I'm blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, if you can't, there's a technique called ask why 5 times. Why are you pro-life? Well, why that? Well, why that? It used to be called root cause analysis. So anyway, number 1, thinking about thinking is the most important kind of thinking. The sub-bullet under there, Dave, is a concept in category design called reject the premise. Most people unconsciously accept the premise. Well, the market is the way that it is. Customers have specific needs. If we ask those customers what those needs are, they'll tell us. We know they care about quality, they care about price, they care about availability and distribution, all the things that anybody would tell you that they knew from the market the way that it is. Legends reject the premise because it's the premise is the past. And let me give you one of my favorite category design stories. It's about a category designer named Alicia Otis in the 1800s. And Alicia is the godfather of the elevator. And today, to just show you the staying power of category kings, when you category design a whole new approach, a whole new market, and you're able to continuously execute and innovate, you will remain that category queen or king forever. You've been on an elevator, yes, Dave?
I have.
You ever look down on the floor?
Otis, a lot of Otis.
Right. That's Alicia Otis. Now, here's how he did it. So the technology existed. The problem was it wasn't reliable. Well, there was no way you wanted to put anything of value to yourself, never mind a person, on this device, this carbidingulator that moves shit up and down, if when it was up, it could fall and do very bad things. So he created the technology to ensure that doesn't happen. And that's how he called it the safety elevator was the category. Okay. So he invents the technology, he invents the product. And like all legendary entrepreneurs, all legendary creators, authors, innovators, entrepreneurs of all types, he goes, ta-da, the safety elevator. And everybody goes, okay, cool. And nothing happens. Because to your point, if you're going to introduce the world to something radically different, radically new, solving a problem that either A, exists, but in a radically new way, or B, in the case of Alicia Otis and many category designers, a problem we didn't know we had. So what he ran up against was, even after creating this safety capability, well, why would I ever want to move anything up and down? Because remember, there's no such thing as a skyscraper without Alicia. So here's what he does. Category designers, when they introduce the world to something radically new and different that can move the world from an old way, aka a status quo, to a new and different future, you have to meet people where they are and bring them forward. So what has he figured out after many failed attempts? He says the description, what in category design terms is called the point of view, the POV, he creates goes like this. We've created the world's first vertical railroad. And he said railroads move things horizontally across land. and it could be things, it could be people, it could be anything you want. And we all understand the railroad. Well, this is a railroad that goes up and down. And then people say, okay, well, what would we need a railroad that goes up and down for? And now he's engaging them in a different point of view. And but for Alicia Otis, skyscrapers don't happen. But for Alicia Otis, apartment buildings don't happen. The New York skyline does not happen. The Dubai skyline does not happen. And so the point being, the more radically different and new the innovation, the more powerful, the more thoughtful we have to be at what in category design is called the languaging, the new uses of language that we use to help people have the same aha that the founder, the creator, the innovator, the entrepreneur had. And once we get that to go kerplunk for people, they see it. And the second they see it, Dave, they can't unsee it. And that's the mastery of category design. That's how we become radically differentiated.
Really powerful. I'm imagining that you would put Apple, at least Apple under Steve Jobs, in the category design Hall of Fame.
Steve Jobs is at the front of the Hall of Fame. And listen, I will tell you this. Tim Cook is not a classic category designer in the way we would all recognize Jobs as being one, or Elon Musk as being one, or Sarah Blakely as being one, or Walt Disney being one. And that man has been an extraordinary steward of Apple, and he's continued to do it. And he just did it with spatial computing, with the new, they never call it a headset, but the new headset. Yeah. He's invented a whole new category of computing. And the way he did it was to evangelize the problem that you and I didn't know we had, which is the tyranny of the screen. You and I have to be stationary, sitting here, looking at our computer screens to see each other.
Yeah.
We put on the Apple Vision Pro and we are freed from the screen. Now, is it going to work? I have no idea. We'll find out. I think it probably will work. But many new categories and companies sound like stupid ideas until they're not. So he continues to do it. But absolutely, he's a great example. And listen, small companies can do it too. Let me tell you my pizza story.
Yeah, please.
So there's a pizza place that opened up in the pandemic of my hometown of Santa Cruz called Bookie's. Bookies, I believe. And they are Detroit pizza. What is called Detroit pizza? It's like a thicker pizza, almost focaccia-y like. And they're wonderful when done right. However, I think it's two guys, might be three. But the guys who created this new pizza joint, they wanted to have their own flair, and they live in the West Coast. They wanted to add, and they want to make it maybe a little healthy, whatever. They want to do their own thing, but in that genre. Well, our town, like most towns, has a bazillion pizza joints who all compete on better, faster, cheaper.
No.
They said we're going to be Detroit-style pizza. So that's the beginning of a niche down, a focus, a new category, or at least a differentiated category. However, they wanted to bring their own spin to it. And they also got some criticism for people who were diehard Detroit pizza fans. So if you look at their sign today, or you go to their website, what you'll see is Bookie's Pizza. And 3 words or 4 words, inauthentic Detroit pizza. And so, unlike every other pizza joint in town who's competing on better, faster, cheaper, fresher pepperoni, whatever cheese, we're going to put the cheese in the thing, and all of those feature benefit type discussions that are all about beating competition. Oh, well, you can have a coupon on Tuesdays. Well, we can have a coupon on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And well, we're going to do 6-minute. I'm friends with the guy who created 8-minute abs. His name's Carl Deichler. He's the CEO of Body, right? Well, if you remember something about Mario, well, what happens with somebody comes out with 7-minute abs or 6-minute abs? And everybody's playing 8-minute, 7-minute, 6-minute, our pepperoni better than, et cetera, et cetera. If you want inauthentic Detroit pizza in Santa Cruz, California, there's only one place you can get it. And it is that focus, that radical differentiation, that niching down, I would rather mean a ton to a very small number of people than mean almost nothing to almost everyone. And that strategy, called category design, works if you're two guys opening a pizza joint in Santa Cruz, California, or you're Sam Altman creating the fastest growing startup in the history of the world.
So the inauthentic Detroit pizza, that belies a couple of things. Number one, it belies a sense of humor, which to me has always meant mastery. Because if you have extra bandwidth to be funny, you're probably really, really good at what you're doing in the main part of your business. And it's self-deprecating, right? So it's Detroit pizza, but hey, we're in Santa Cruz. So of course it's not Detroit pizza. It's inauthentic Detroit pizza. And because they're experimenting with all the crazy breads and cheeses and toppings, and they're making it innovative and tasty and different, you might even recognize this if you were in Detroit. You're like, that's not Detroit pizza. Of course not. It's inauthentic Detroit pizza. It's from Santa Cruz. It's awesome. So is that the line of thinking?
Yes. Brilliant. And so when most people talk about differentiation, Dave, they don't focus on different, they focus on better. If you ask most creators, most entrepreneurs, most marketers, most salespeople, what makes you, what makes your service, what makes your product different? Just ask the question and shut up. And notice, listen hard, and think about what's being said. And what you'll notice when you ask most people what makes them different, they give you a list of better.
Yeah.
And the only comparison that category designers do is not to a competitive product. We attack the status quo.
Yes.
Apple did it geniusly. I'm a Mac and I'm a PC. That was a category marketing campaign. You'll note they did not say, I'm a Mac and I'm an IBM, or I'm a Mac and I'm a Dell. No, it was Macs as distinct from the entire category that existed of personal computers.
That's right.
And so legendary category design marketers attack the status quo, and they become the champion for a new and different future by framing, naming, and claiming a problem. And here's the interesting psychological trick that happens in the human mind. The person who understands and or can articulate our problem the most powerfully, our brain immediately goes, first of all, we relax. We go, wow, great, someone gets it. And then whether we realize it or not, the person who owns the problem in our mind becomes the solution. Because the way the human brain works is, if you can powerfully frame a problem that is meaningful to me, well, duh, of course you have the solution.
Yeah.
And so here's the crazy thing. The vast majority of marketers and salespeople will spend their entire life marketing and selling their product. The people who make 76% of the economics market and sell the customer's problem. And it goes like this. If I market my brand and product, you assume you want my money, or I want your money.
Yeah.
If I market your problem or some new opportunity, you assume I want to help you.
Yes, I know, terrific episode here, but have you seen our latest web training? Oh my goodness, pop over there right now, or as soon as you're done listening to this episode, it's doitmarketing.com/webinar. See you over there. Back to the good stuff.
Well, and this comes from the man who, on the homepage of Lochhead.com, I think you've got some podcast reviews, which I totally love. Off-putting to some, absolute crap, very disappointing, the worst business podcast. One Amazon reviewer said, stupid. An Apple reviewer says, uses profanity needlessly. Another Apple review, annoying host. Another Amazon review, unimpressed. The content was very weak, nothing new. So what you're saying there, my interpretation of that, which is a complete genius, by the way, this isn't for everybody. And
Correct.
It's also not for weak-minded idiots.
Correct.
So if you can't handle the truth, I don't want you as a listener or a reader.
Correct. And there's a big insight here from a category design and marketing perspective. Most marketing invites a comparison. Oh, don't take my word for it. Look at what Gartner says. And then if the company puts the Gartner chart on their homepage, which is a list of their fucking competitors. Or the other one, people have a slide that they use or something on their website. And they got the bad guys that have 6 features. And then us who have 67 features. And you go, look, just compare. Imagine spending money to compare yourself to somebody else's thing, AKA Pepsi. When we do this as marketers, we might as well Venmo our marketing budget to our competitor.
Amazing.
Right?
So
in
good.
category design, we force a choice, not a comparison. When you go to the website, there's some positive reviews on there, but the best reviews and the funniest reviews and the most compelling reviews are the negative ones.
Yes.
Why? Well, first of all, it's different.
Yeah.
By nature, it stands out. Second of all, you know this well, Dave, in the world that you and I live in, the author, podcaster, educator, creator world, most people are breaking their own arms, patting themselves on the back. And their website just talks about how fucking awesome they are and all the awards they won. And look, we throw some of that shit into it's important to establish oneself. However, by doing that stuff, it says, me and all of my colleagues, we don't take ourselves that seriously. And we are sending a notice. We're putting you on notice. We're forcing a choice. This is not for everybody. And most people want to do marketing that is for everybody. And it turns out knowing who you're not for is more powerful than knowing who you're for.
Totally spot on. Totally spot on. In our remaining couple of minutes, I have to ask you, because you mentioned about thinking. You have also written a fantastic book, Writing About Writing, which is the Snow Leopard book. Subtitle is How Legendary Writers Create a Category of One. Talk to us about what the writers listening to us need to take from this conversation.
Writers and artists of all kinds do exactly the same, make exactly the same mistake that entrepreneurs make. So if I say to you, Bob Marley, we all know who that is. He's the category designer of reggae. Now, if I say to you, who's the 8th greatest reggae star of all time? We have no clue. And so struggling creators, struggling writers are the ones who are chasing Hemingway or chasing Drucker. The ones who are legendary stand out because they are different. So, for example, we've had Ryan Holiday on our podcast multiple times. Well, he's the category king of Stoicism. Nobody was talking about Stoicism. Nobody was evangelizing some of the great thinking of the great thinkers. And he figured out how to go read all that shit, because most people are never going to go read it, and tell you about Aristotle in a highly engaging and consumable way. Well, today, he's the Stoicism guy. Now, lots of other people are now writing and blogging and podcasting and newslettering and using the quotes and using the ideas and all that. But Ryan Holiday stands alone. And so authors who are willing to be radically different and stand for a breakthrough category design are called category kings. And those who don't, who compete, their work is called a side hustle because they have to work at the DMV.
Well, we could literally go on for hours, which simply means that we have to have you back for another episode. For now, Christopher, where can we send people? What links would you like to have in the show notes? Because I know they're going to want to get connected and stay connected to more Christopher Lochhead genius. Where can we send them?
Lochhead.com is a great place to go. 2 H's, no K, Lochhead. And if you like, we have a top 10 paid business Substack. And we can also give you a link to the Beginner's Guide to Category Design, which is free, that everybody can go and check out if they want to learn more about the greatest underground superpower in business history.
Excellent. And links to all of those goodies are going to be in the show notes directly under this episode at thesellingshow.com. Christopher, thank you for probably, this is the most I've laughed in over 400 episodes. I got to tell you. So brilliant, insightful, and funny as hell. That's going to be my review of at least this episode. And thank you genuinely for being so generous and wonderful with your brilliance.
Thank you, Dave, and bless you.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.